What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Beyond the Course podcast. Today's guest is Greg Robertson, head coach of the women's golf team at Oklahoma State University. Greg, how are you doing today?
Doing great. I appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate you coming on, and I owe a big thank you, I think, to your son as well, who actually reached out to me on YouTube. He was really excited to get you on and have a chat with you. So yeah, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time. So just tell us a little bit about yourself first of all. Obviously, you played at Oklahoma State University.
Yeah, I played my college golf at Oklahoma State my first 4 years, and then I transferred to University of New Mexico for my last year to start my master's degree. I had one more year of eligibility, and when I got done with school, I played for a couple of years. I went to Q school a couple times, played on the Canadian tour, and just after a couple of 2-3 years of doing that, I felt like I needed to kind of move on and do something different, and so I wanted to get into coaching. Both my parents are coaches. Actually, my sister's the head women's golf coach at Texas Tech. And so I wanted to move on. Coaching always interested me. And so what I did is I came back to Oklahoma State and I worked at the golf course. I was still playing a little bit in some state opens and stuff like that. And I was working as a volunteer assistant with the program under Coach Holder. And I did that for a year. And after that year, the job at Purdue University came open, and I was fortunate enough to get that opportunity. And that was my first full-time coaching experience. And so I was at Purdue for 11 years working under Devin Browse, a great coach, has had a lot of success. And so that helped me then get the job at Kent State University up in Ohio, where I was the head coach for 6 years. We had some success there at Kent State, and the job opened up at Oklahoma State, and it all just kind of worked out where I was able to come back home and work for my alma mater. And so I couldn't be more happy to be here. It's been a great 2 years. It's been an interesting 2 years. My first 2 years here with COVID and with everything going on, but it's a thrill to be back here in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Yeah, so you mentioned there, you kind of knew that you wanted to do the coaching side. Did you know that even while you were playing that it was something that you were going to want to do one day, or did that kind of come after you stopped playing?
While I was playing, I towards the end of the time that I was playing, I started to think about it. I wanted to stay in athletics. I wanted to stay with golf. And really, I love the competition of it all. And coaching is a great way to stay within the sport, but also stay within, to continue to compete. And so that was something that really intrigued me. And again, with my parents both being coaches, I felt like, that was something that I wanted to do, and something that, again, looking at jobs after playing, something that I would have fun with and I would enjoy for the rest of my career. And so far, after 20 years, I mean, it's been a great decision for me because I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've done a bit of caddying as well for some of the girls. Obviously you're the head coach and you've been a player. So would you say the head coaching role is kind of the one that brings you the most joy out of all the different roles that you've done in golf?
Yeah, I think so. I've enjoyed the caddying part. I've done it out there on the LPGA tour, probably about 7 times. Caddied in a few U.S. Opens and some other LPGA events, and then in a couple of Korn Ferry Tour events with, of course, back then I think it was the Buy.com tour, but for a former player of my, a former teammate of mine. And so I've enjoyed that time doing that kind of stuff, but I've always said caddying's fun for me to do about once a year or once every couple of years. I couldn't imagine doing that full time. It's a lot of hard work. It's a fun time, especially you get out there, the players playing well and big crowds and stuff like that. But coaching, the college team is definitely what I love the most.
And as a player then, was there anything in particular during your kind of playing career that helped you become a coach? Anything that you kind of learned as you were playing that's maybe made you a good coach today? Or was it something where you really had to, learn about how to do the coaching once you started doing it?
Well, I say that I'm probably one of the luckiest coaches out there in terms of how my career has unfolded. I started off playing college golf for Mike Holder here at Oklahoma State, who I think is probably, the best college golf coach ever. And when I came back, to coach as a volunteer assistant, Mike McGraw, who's now the head coach at Baylor, and was a head coach here at Oklahoma State, he was the assistant coach, and he's won a national championship. My year at University of New Mexico, I played for JT Higgins, and he has since won a national championship. I've gone up to Purdue University, coached with Devin Browse while I was there. Our team won a national championship there, our women's team. And then I moved on to Kent State, and I got a chance to work with Herb Page, who I think is one of the top coaches in college golf, has had a heck of a career in what he's done at Kent State. And he kind of helped me a lot, especially early on, my first, couple of years there as a head coach. And then I've since have come to back to Oklahoma State. Now I'm working alongside Alan Bratton. He's won a national championship. So all the people that I've been around, and again, with my parents being coaches, I've had a chance to really lean on and rely on a lot of successful coaches and successful people. And I think really throughout my time and having been able to experience that, I've really gained a lot of knowledge and saw a lot of different coaching styles. And I've probably drawn from each and every one of them.
Yeah. So in your opinion, then, what do you think makes up kind of the key elements of being a successful coach?
Well, I think there's a lot to it, but I think that one thing that I learned early on when I first got to Purdue University, I was only about 26 years old. I was only a couple of years ahead of, some of the seniors on the team. Mm-hmm. And I tried to kind of make sure I created that line between coach and player. And I probably went a little bit too far. And I didn't really develop relationships with those players like I should have. And as I've kind of gone on throughout my career, and especially as I've become a head coach, learning how to develop those relationships is really key. And one thing that I found is, when I first got into coaching, Mike Holder, who I played for, was a tough coach, kind of an old school type of coach. My dad was an old school type football coach. I felt like, I kind of needed to be that way when I first got into coaching. And what I realized is that you got to be yourself, you got to do it your way, and what fits your personality, because the players see right through that if you're not being really who you are. But I think, developing those relationships is really probably the key to it all, and developing that trust between the players and the coaches and the players. And so that's really the kind of what I think has been, what's helped me out along the way throughout the years, and hopefully becoming a better coach, from when I first got started to where I am now.
Yeah, I know this is something that's, very important to you. I've read a few different stories about how you kind of handle these situations in terms of the education side of coaching these kids as well. So obviously, when you're coaching these college kids or the women, you've also got the education side of college to worry about, not just the golf side or the sports side of it. So how do you go about that as well? Obviously, you are mainly the head golf coach. Do you get involved much in terms of their education? We've all seen these, amazing movies like Coach Carter, where he's in the library with the kids and making sure that they're studying. Like, are you taking on that sort of role as well, or do you kind of step back and let the teachers do their thing?
Well, there are some NCAA rules that we have to follow, and actually, coaches aren't really allowed to get involved in terms of the educational part of it. And I think it's more so to make sure everything's being done, by the rules, and there's nothing shady going on. But the one thing that we do is we want to make sure that there is a good balance between golf and school. And the way we do that is, making sure when we get back from tournaments, that we give them plenty of time off to get caught up on their schoolwork. Even during the week, during the practice week, we let them know, look, if you've got a lot going on with exams or with papers, let us know. We'd rather give them a day off in the middle of the week to focus on that stuff than for them to be stressed out while they're at practice and probably
Sure.
not going to get much done and be very efficient. And so I think from our end, the way we can help them balance that school and golf aspect of it is to make sure that we give them time, we have some flexibility, and we're proud to say that everybody on our team and all the way from Kent State to here in the last 8 years has held above a 3.0 out of a 4-point scale GPA, which is above a B average. And our team GPA this past year with this team that finished second at the NCAA championship was a 3.65, and 4 out of our 5 players that played in the NCAA championship earned a perfect 4.0 in the spring semester. And so we want to make sure that they have that success in the classroom. And I will say, I've got to give credit to the academic support that we have here at Oklahoma State with our athletic academic advisors that do a lot. We've got great tutors, that are provided. And so there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot of people that really help with this. On our end, it's just a matter of being flexible at times and making sure that we do create that good balance between golf and school.
Yeah. And that's a key word, it's the balance, isn't it? Because is there never many issues whereby, the kid does have to study or has to take days off, etc., and then that kind of affects their golf practice? Because I imagine it maybe puts you in a little bit of a difficult position sometimes when it's kind of like, I need this XYZ person to be training this week with the team or whatever it is, but they've got to do this school stuff. And sometimes it can be a bit frustrating as a coach, can't it? In that you want to get these kids together, you want to do the practice or whatever it may be, but some people might not be available.
Right. And that's the thing about golf is that we probably miss more school than any other athlete on campus because, our tournaments are 2, 3, 4 days. We're gone for, extended periods of time. So we're missing at least some school for, every tournament that we play. And so, it is important to make sure that they kind of have a healthy mind throughout the year and they're not getting so stressed out about either golf or school because one's going to affect the other if that's the case. And so when we have them out on the golf course for practice or we're at tournaments, we want to make sure that they're focused on what they're doing with school. And then when they're in studying and taking exams and they're in the classroom, that they can stay focused on, what they're doing there, and they're not worried about the golf part. So it's definitely a tricky balance because there are so many demands on their time. And the great thing about golf, I will say, is that because it's an individual sport, we don't need the whole team there like a football team or basketball team to have practice. So we can be flexible, and if somebody can't be there at the the practice time that we might have set for the team, we can be flexible and have them, practice a little bit earlier or a little bit later and
Sure.
and help them out in those ways. So there's a lot of ways that it can get done, but it's certainly a challenge at times. And especially as you get to the spring semester, the end of the semester when they're getting ready to take finals is also the same time that, we had just played in the conference championship. We're getting to play at the NCAA regional championship and the NCAA championship. And so there's a lot going on. They have a lot on their plate during those 3 weeks or so between finals and all those championships that they're getting ready to play. And so our teams they've done a great job handling it. And that's just because we've had some great people on the team and great students, great golfers. But we definitely want to make sure that they can handle both and do it in a healthy way.
Yeah. One thing I do want to jump into a little bit is more the actual role of a head coach in college golf, especially for maybe some of the UK viewers like myself that is not as knowledgeable as maybe the US viewers. Obviously, as a head coach, you're doing stuff like the scouting and organizing the team, but are you also actually coaching the kids in terms of their golf swings and their practice, or do they all have their own individual coaches that they've used since they were young and you kind of work with those coaches to help them out? How does all that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it's done differently a little bit from program to program. From our perspective, all of our players come in with their own instructor, and we've recruited them to come here because of where they are with their golf game, and they're there because of what they've been doing and who they've been working with. And so our thought is that we don't want to change any of that if they come to Oklahoma State. We want them to continue to work with, whoever they've been working with up to that point. And if we can work with that instructor, find out what it is that the players are doing and some things that they're working on or changing in their game or their swing, then we can keep an eye on those things. And if we see something that we feel might be an issue, that we can just talk to them about that. But I would say that most of the technical work as far as the golf swing stuff is going to be done with their personal instructor. And we certainly don't make any changes without going through that person. I think in my mind, at least here at Oklahoma State, the biggest thing that we do, or the biggest couple of things that we do, is getting them ready for tournaments and getting them prepared, teaching them how to practice and practice effectively and efficiently, and then working on really their course management, teaching, working on scoring, managing the golf course, managing themselves. And that's where I see the biggest improvement from our players from year one until they graduate is in that scoring part, because everybody's going to be continually making small changes in their game and in their golf swing and that sort of thing. But the major strides that I see our players make is out there on the golf course and scoring. And so that's where I feel like we do most of our coaching, is in that area. And then also getting them prepared, and then just really working with their instructors on the technical part throughout their time that they're in school.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll get onto the recruiting side of things in just a minute, but in terms of the coaching side, then what does a typical week or days leading up to a tournament with your team look like? Obviously, we know in games like American football, they're looking at past footage, they're looking at film. What kind of things are you guys doing with your girls to prepare for a upcoming tournament?
Well, one thing we do is that we sit down with them, and we have them all set up a practice plan for themselves, and we work with them on this. Because golf's an individual sport, we don't do a lot of structured work where we have everybody on the team doing this or this at practice. We'll do some of that, maybe with some wedge practice, maybe some short game stuff. But for the most part, they're going to be taking care of their own practice plans. And we're out there with them working on that stuff. A lot of these golf courses that we play in the tournaments, we've been to many times. So we'll work with them on some of the things that they're going to see at the tournaments. But they're going to take care of those practice plans that they have set up. But a lot of the work that we do really is at the tournament during the practice rounds, getting them ready for the event. And when our job, I think, is for us to get them 100% prepared for these tournaments. And then once we get there and we get through the practice round, we go through the yardage book the night before the first round, and just make sure they've got the numbers that they need in there. But at that point in time, we tell them, once you get on that first tee, I mean, you tee it up and you play some golf. I mean, yeah. we don't make them play any certain way. But what we'll do is, when the tournaments are over, we have a tournament evaluation sheet that they just fill out. There's just a few questions that we have of what did I do well? What do I need to work on for the next tournament? And what did I learn? And we go through that with every one of them that played in the tournament. We have individual meetings with them, kind of go over it, find out what some things that they can learn from, point out what they did well. But also, again, just you can always learn some stuff and figure out what it is that you need to work on before the next tournament. And so that's where, we want them to kind of be thinking about that kind of stuff. And if they make mistakes out on the golf course, I mean, that's golf. I remind them that, I've hit, I can't tell you how many bad shots I've hit on a golf course in tournaments, or how many bad decisions I've made. That's part of golf. Sure. But the learning from that and moving on, becoming better is where, the advancement in the game comes. And so, we don't when they're on the golf course, we do one of two things. We either walk with somebody for 18 holes in the tournament, If it's somebody that likes us to be around and maybe they shoot some good scores while we're walking with them, we'll do that if that's going to kind of help out. Or if it's somebody that's struggling a little bit and we think we might be able to help them by just kind of being there. But we'll either walk with them for 18 holes or we'll just stand back and just let them play golf. We don't jump around from person to person and interfere with what they're doing. As a matter of fact, we tell them, we want you to be independent out there. So don't come, wave us down and come ask us if you should go for a par 5 and 2 over water. I mean, you make that decision, and if you're confident and you feel that's the shot, hit it. And if you happen to hit it in the water or, if whatever, hey, you learn, again, you learn from it. But that's kind of how we do things when we're at the tournaments. And then our goal is, again, just to be 100% prepared going in. And then at that point, when they tee it up in the tournament, let them play golf and we're going to get out of their way.
So are any of these girls having caddies during these rounds or these events, or is all that kind of course information coming from the preparation you guys do with, yourself and the other girls?
Yeah. So they're carrying their own bags. The only thing, we can walk with them as coaches. We can't carry their bag, but we can walk and do everything that a caddy can do. And we can go up to them at any time, but we just choose to, once we get that practice round done and we go through that yardage book, we got all the numbers, we got all the information. Then it's time to, let them just let loose and play golf. And so really for the most part, I mean, they're just out there playing. And they don't necessarily have us around in terms of, providing information. If they need it occasionally here and there, that's fine. But for the most part, I want them to, to be free and not worry about the coaches, not worry about everything else that goes along with college golf, because there's a lot of distractions in college golf. You've got individual leaderboards and team leaderboards and, coaches of other teams, your own coaches, it can be a bit much out there, and we want them to just treat it like it's a summer golf tournament when they're playing their best golf. And so just get them prepared and then just let them go.
Yeah. So with the recruiting side of it then, I mean, what sort of things are you looking for in a player as a head coach that's looking for new talent? What sort of things are you looking for?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but obviously the first thing that catches your attention are the scores and the results that they're having in their junior golf tournaments. And that's one key piece to it. But then after that, when you start to get into the process and you start to get to know them, that's when it's really about finding what we call the right fit for the program. Sure. And so making sure that the personalities of the recruits match what it is that, we think will work well with our team. Make sure that our coaching style is what they want as a player. You've got other things like, making sure that the scholarship that they need and the scholarship that we're willing to offer matches. And then you have the academic side of it as well. Again, we go back to what we talked about earlier with as much class as they're missing, making sure that they can handle, all that missed class, plus the exams, plus the papers and everything that goes on with college golf. And so, so there's a lot that goes into it and that goes beyond just the scores. And so really, I think a majority of what we're looking for comes when we start actually talking to them through video calls, or we bring them in on visits and getting to know them as a person. I think that's when that a big part of our recruiting happens in that part. And after the initial, you see what kind of results, you see what kind of a player they are. That's the easy part. And then it's trying to figure out as well, what kind of drive do you feel like they're going to have once they get to school? And in terms of the next 4 years, are they going to be driven to continue to get better and work towards winning championships and being a good teammate and all those things? That's what you're trying to project. But it's really about finding the right fit more than anything.
And is there any sort of process whereby you're kind of literally testing these kids? I mean, you've obviously said there you have that kind of initial chat with them and you see what they're like as a person. You're obviously keeping an eye on scores and the tournaments they've been involved in. But with that whole recruiting process, do they come in and do some sort of round with you guys and you watch them on a round? Is there any sort of tests involved?
Well, the NCAA rules actually prohibit us from doing that. When they're on
Okay.
campus, we're not allowed to take them out on the golf course and be with them on the golf course. So there's really not, they don't want there to be a tryout period. And I think that stems from other sports too, because obviously you get into football and basketball, I mean, just with injuries and things that can happen. And so they have that rule spread across all sports. So really, everything that we're doing with our evaluation of the player is through going to tournaments. And we go to tournaments all across the US. We usually go to Europe once or twice. I've been to Asia. And so it's about watching the players. You see their scores. I mean, the great thing about the internet is we've got access to, pretty much every score and all the results that they've had for years and years. And so, and if we don't get a chance to watch them, it's always good to at least see a swing video. But then you're also, again, going through the process of getting to know them through video calls and stuff like that. If everything kind of checks out and it looks like it could be a good fit, then we work on bringing them in for a visit. And so if you come in on an official visit, by NCAA rules, you've got 48 hours that you're allowed to be here. And during that time, we want to show them around campus. We want to show them our facilities. And just as importantly, we want to have them meet the team, see how they get along with the team, how the team gets along with them.
Sure.
We set up meetings with advisors on campus to make sure that academically it's meeting what they're looking for. So again, there's really a lot that goes into it. And so in the end, it's got to be, again, a right fit for them towards our program. And then everything that we can offer is what they're looking for.
Yeah, and obviously you've coached a lot of girls that have then gone on to get their tour cards, and some played on LPGA. I think a couple have played on the European Tour, the LET as well. So in your opinion and your experience, what do you think separates those that kind of make it from college and don't make it? What do these college kids need to have when they're ready to turn pro and try and get their tour cards?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tricky question because, as I mean, you just never really know until they get out there and they experience the tour life, and how they'll do, because there are some college players or even some junior golfers that have turned pro that you would have thought, man, they can't miss. And then they actually struggle a little bit more than you think. And then there are others that you would have never thought, would be making it out there, and they are. But I think that, from what I've seen, those that have some power and some length, especially on the lady side, is really big. If you can drive the ball well, and you've got that length, and you can give yourself a lot of, short clubs into the greens. Again, I mean, that's no secret to the game of golf. It's just, but I think on the lady side, if you've got, quite a bit of power, like Alexi Thompson, Nelly Korda, those type of players, you really see that, go a long way. And then certainly, I think it's the obviously the short game is part of it, but it's learning how to and being comfortable with going low, and that's the thing, that we're seeing is that if you're going to play out there, you got to be comfortable with being able to shoot 63, 64, 65. There's not a whole lot of money being made, shooting right around par every time you tee it up. And so, and some players have a knack for that, mentally. They're comfortable when they're more comfortable the lower they get. Some players kind of have a little bit of a mental block that, they get, 2 or 3 under, they want to shut it down a little bit and get to the clubhouse. But I think, having that power, having a good short game, and just learning how to be able to take it low and being comfortable, shooting those low numbers to 63, 64, 65. I mean, that's what you got to do these days. Yeah.
And I want to go back to you personally now a little bit. As a coach, obviously a very successful one like yourself, what is the more kind of prouder moments that you've experienced as a coach? Is it, you've got the personal awards, you've got the team awards. but then you've also got the, you know, the satisfaction of watching some of these girls go on to become, like I said, pros on tour, like the ladies European Tour or the LPGA. So what is the most kind of satisfying for you as a head coach of these girls?
Well, you know, when I was in my, I think it was my second year at Kent State, Coach Maddie Swaney and I came up with a mission statement of what we felt was our main job and mission as coaches. And really what we came up with was that we want to create the, you know, the opportunities in the environment for our players to win championships on the golf course, earn their degree, and to grow and mature as individuals, to become, you know, to best be prepared for life after college. And so what we want to see is, I mean, we would love for them all to go out and have a great professional career playing golf. You know, obviously, you know, it's a tough thing to do. But what we want to see is for them to, you know, to have success once they leave school, whether it be on the golf course, in the business world, as parents, whatever it might be. And I think that, you know, one thing that I like to do is I keep all of the messages and cards and notes that players have written, you know, to me over the past, you know, 8 years as a head coach. And I actually keep a file of that in my computer. And so, you know, to get those messages about, you know, how much they felt we helped them along the way, you know, not just on the golf course, but as a person. And you know, that what they're doing today, that maybe the success that they're having today and whatever it might be, that we had a small part in kind of leading them and guiding them through those 4 years that's helped them get to that point. And so I would say that's probably, you know, you get a lot of satisfaction as a coach, I think, you know, when you get those notes and you get those messages and you see that the players, they understand there was you know, the whole process of everything going on throughout those 4 years, as tough as it might have been, has really helped them, you know, and where they are in their life today. And so, you know, that's always fun to get those type of messages.
Yeah, I imagine. And I think one special thing about being able to coach these types of teams, especially for college level, is the fact that, you know, you're obviously recycling the team in a way, aren't you? And every time these girls leave to go on tour or whatever it is they do, you've then got to basically start with brand new players, brand new team, and do it all again. You know, a lot of successful coaches or managers, no matter what sport it's in, they sometimes stay with the same players for 10 years. And, you know, the players almost, you know, part of the success and the key of the coach being so good, as is the coaches when the player is so good. So what's the key to specifically being a college golf coach in terms of rebuilding those teams, you know, bringing in new talent and as the old ones go out, and then still being able to be successful?
I think a big part of that is setting and creating an environment, you know, of discipline and accountability, and an environment where, you know, the players come through and, you know, as they get to be juniors and seniors, that they're able to lead and help bring along the, you know, the freshmen and sophomores that are coming up through. And it, hopefully it just kind of continues to cycle that way. And so I think it starts with that, you know, that environment that you have in your program, because it could go one way or the other pretty easily.
Sure.
You know, and that's, you know, that's again a part of our job. And, you know, I think as a college golf coach, you know, you're working with them on golf, but I think you're also, you know, you're also a bit of a psychologist and that sort of thing, to try to, you know, continue to help them from a mental aspect, but also, you know, to continue to, you know, create an environment where they can have success, and that success will be sustained even when those top players are long gone, that hopefully they've helped out the ones that have come through, and that just continues. So that's where I think it's important, especially from the very start. And that's where it comes with also finding the right fit for your program and making sure that the individuals that you're bringing in as freshmen, that they're gonna fall in line with what, you know, what you're doing in the program, that they, you know, their expectations meet, you know, what our expectations. And, you know, and so I think those couple things right there are really important to, you know, continue it, because yeah, it could get away from you real quick if, if you don't have that in place.
And I think all that kind of helps out the recruitment side of it, doesn't it, as well? Because, you've obviously got to try and convince these kids that are coming out of high school, that are obviously superstars from high school, and then the next big thing for college, and you've got to try and convince them to come to your school and your program. And obviously, if you're leaving behind, these girls that have got nothing but good to say about you, the program, and how everything was incredible, they're obviously more likely to come back, aren't they? I mean, that has to be a part of it as well, because if you look at American football, you've had Alabama that have just constantly been successful year after year. I think Duke had a run of it in the college basketball year after year, and that's not easy to do. So that's got to be a key part of it as well.
Well, and I think if you look at all of those programs, you do kind of see the same theme where, I mean, they do it in different ways, but the environment that they're creating in their program just kind of breeds success. And you're right. Again, when we have recruits in, the one thing that I tell them, and is talk to everybody on our team. We don't have anything to hide. I mean, we're
Sure.
not trying to keep. And so I think if you can have that, and not everybody on the team is, you've only traveled 5 to each tournament. So there's going to be 4, 5, 6 players that aren't traveling to tournaments. So, there's going to be some disappointment in some players, especially if they don't get picked for tournaments. And so, it's not, everything's just a perfect situation at all times. But I think if you do things in a fair way, you keep communication open with the players so they have an understanding of everything going on within the program, that, they have some respect for what's going on in the program. And so, but as far as I'm concerned, I want those recruits to talk to everybody on the team and get to know different perspectives as to what's going on. And, and so, and my thought is that, again, if you have the right environment and you have the right people, they should be having an enjoyable experience once they're here. And that's the one thing that I talk to recruits about all the time in recruiting, is that from strictly a golf standpoint, there's really 2 things you ought to be looking for in a program. Number 1, are the players improving from year 1 to year 4? And number 2, are they having a good experience? And if you have those 2 things, you're going to be in a pretty good situation. And if you have those 2 things with everybody on the team in that type of environment, then things should run pretty smoothly. And I think ultimately you'll have some success.
Yeah, for sure. And, I touched on it before. You've obviously had different experiences in golf as a player, coach, and caddy. And, you're obviously happy where you are right now at Oklahoma State University. But do you have any plans in the long future, in the far future, should I say, to do anything else in golf, whether it's caddy for somebody else or be a coach of a different type of college or the men's game? Have you got any kind of thoughts on that, or you just kind of see where it goes?
No, honestly, if I can end my career here at Oklahoma State, that would be the best thing possible for me and my family. I don't have any plans of, moving on and being a caddy or anything like that. My playing days are long gone. And that once I got into coaching, I've spent more time on a golf course than I ever have, but I've played less than I ever have. But so my playing days are gone. And as long as I'm in coaching and as long as Oklahoma State will keep me here, I plan on being here until I'm retired. And so, again, it's, here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, where OSU is located. This is where my wife grew up and her dad lives here. I'm closer to my family now. They live in New Mexico. So I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot, and I don't think I'd want to change a thing.
Yeah. And outside of golf then, what sort of person are you? Obviously, you are obsessed with golf, but are you the kind of person that will go home and, again, watch film of old rounds or whatever it is to try and keep improving things, or do you switch off from golf?
Yeah, I can turn it off. When I get home, I'll watch the Golf Channel a little bit, but I don't get obsessed with with watching a whole lot of golf once I'm back home. I've got 2 boys, an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. They're involved with all kinds of sports, baseball, golf, basketball, cross country. So, my time once I'm home is usually consumed with, working with them and following them around. And as much as I'm away at, with recruiting and the tournaments, to get a chance to spend some time with them is pretty special, and it's precious time, especially as they're getting older. And you know, so I try to make sure that I've got plenty of time to be with them, you know, and away from anything else, just kind of the things that relax me at home is just doing some yard work around the house and stuff like that. But I'm a big fan of football, American football. And my dad was a football coach. I actually played in high school. And so, you know, during the fall, I'm all about watching football and going to the games. And that's, you know, that's one of my favorite things to do in the fall.
Awesome. Well, before I let you go, just one more thing for any kids or, you know, teenagers that are wanting to go through maybe the college program, play college golf and go pro. What's the one bit of advice that you would give for these kids?
Well, you know, I think nothing can, you know, there's no substitute for hard work. You know, and I think, you know, getting no substitute for competition either. I mean, you know, getting out there and competing, whether it be on a national level or a local level, just whatever you can do, you know, to compete, you know, and work hard. And, you know, the thing is, you know, opportunities will find them, you know, we'll find those players, you know, who do those things, who are driven to work hard and that sort of thing. And there are a lot of opportunities in college golf. And that's one thing that I'd like for all of your listeners to know is that, you know, what may not necessarily be a top 10 Division I team, but there's, you know, we've got Division II, we've got junior college, Division III. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And so, you know, if you look at the rosters really across the board for college golf and at really any level, any school, there's a lot of international players that are on these rosters, you know, so there's a lot of opportunities out there. And so, but the thing is that the coaches need to, you know, they need to see how these players play in competition, you know, and having communication with the coaches is key. And so, you know, being able to, you know, stay in contact with coaches, you know, and provide when you send a coach some information, show them what your scores are. If you've got a swing video, I mean, that always helps. You know, and don't feel like if one door closes on one particular school or a particular set of schools that, you know, something else might not open elsewhere. So it's, you know, just keep working, and you know, try to get in communication with some of these coaches and find the right fit for the program that works for you, that you think will be the best for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Greg. I really appreciate your time, and it was great talking to you.
Well, I appreciate the time as well, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
For sure, Greg. Thank you very much. Cheers, buddy.
All right, you got it. We'll see ya.